Oh, that was a good time to do a yawn, wasn't it? Just at the start of the show. Anyway, you can't help but do a yawn when you do a yawn. So we've got quite a few people in the chat already. I've seen a few people have been having a chat while I was waiting here. So we've got Pleasant Valley Pickering, we've got Victoria, and we've got Glitter Sunflower in just having a chat at the start. Pleasant Valley Picker says, congratulations on uni. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you very much. I have to say, I'll say in a minute when we've got more people in. We've got 3 or 4 people watching at the moment. Yeah, I'll say in a minute when we get more in about my thank yous to everyone about obviously that video. Victoria says, I went to university a long time ago now. And I think she said later on in the chat, what she did as well. I was just reading that a minute ago. Glitter Sunflower is in as well, as I said. I went to art college for 4 years and did a few years of general studies before that. It was a long time. So what's general studies? Do you mean just you went like just general college or high school, random topics or something? Or is that an actual... No, because you can actually do at college, can't you? Something called general studies, but I didn't do it, so I don't know what it's actually in referring to. I guess general studies, doesn't that combine everything together? So maybe in college it takes a little bit from sociology, a little bit from science, a little bit from maths, maybe. I don't, loads of different things combined into one, something like that. I'm confused about the title. Forgot the art stuff. Oh, it was just because last week we were doing the different ideas for Thursday Talks, and I said, oh, next week I'll do an art thing. Well, yeah, I didn't get the art stuff in the week, so therefore we're not going to do the art thing on today's show, and therefore that's why the question title says whack questions in chat. Anyway, let me go down. I think I just want to see... Oh, there it is. Victoria's put in. I'm double the age now as to when I was there. Actually, I can click on here, Akana. I did combined studies too, mainly criminology and sociology with a bit of philosophy. I'm actually in a Facebook group for the university I'm going, and a lot of people in that group are doing criminology. I don't know about sociology, but certainly I've seen a lot of criminology and also psychology. Seems like in this day and age, there's a lot of people who are interested in psychology, and it goes hand in hand with the... Well, I don't know. I mean, I would guess there's a rise in sort of depression and anxiety these days compared to pre-internet days. I mean, we never really know because really the internet could just be giving it more awareness, putting more of a spotlight on it. But actually, there was a lot of it back before the internet. But it's just the internet, as I say, puts that spotlight beamer on it. But I do think really generally there's more depression these days in this internet age. And therefore it's good that more people, well, I would assume more people are taking up psychology. And I'm only assuming that based on the fact that I do hear a lot of people talk about it, talk about them having done psychology or wanting to do psychology themselves. And obviously one of the main things I want to specialize in, as well as, I didn't actually say it on that video, obviously I said I want to specialize in Oriental philosophy, but also another area I want to specialize in is philosophy of the mind, which is very, very relating to psychology as well. So it interests me a lot. It really does. But I like to read broad. I like to read mythology. I like to read philosophy, the classics of philosophy. I like to read psychology as well. And I also like to read, I just read a book actually not so long ago on physics. So I like to, and obviously I've always had a love for prehistoric things, dinosaurs and prehistoric man and things like that. I used to love, I still watch a lot of documentaries on those. I just love that. So I like to read broad with it really, but it does seem a lot of people are doing, sort of psychology and stuff. We are live. Yes, we are indeed. So Jasmine is in. I always say Yasmin. I still say it now. It's crazy. Monumental Andrew is in. We've got Ali in as well. I don't know whether Ali's been in for a couple of weeks. I'm not sure. Fat Girl Sewing is in. Hi there. Most of the regulars, most of the regulars are popping in here. Oh no, the chat's just jumped. 1 second. Oh, there we go. Right, okay. I'll be your professor. How hard can it be? Well, you'll have to know quite a lot to be a professor of philosophy. The people who I did look actually, and the two professors that I've got are actually doctors. So you can do obviously a PhD, and a PhD, I wasn't aware of this, but a PhD actually means Doctor of Philosophy. So yeah, they've got PhDs in philosophy, and therefore to do a PhD, you've got to do a BA, which is 3 years, a master's, which I don't know whether it's 12 months or 24 months, but it might be 2 years part-time, 1 year full-time. I'm not 100% sure, but then at least another year after that, then at least obviously a year or so for PhD. So you're looking minimum 5 years, if not maybe 6 years, to get the PhD. So yeah, there's a lot of knowledge. I mean, and it makes sense because philosophy, when you start going into it, you just realize how much of a rabbit hole it is. You know, you think, right, okay, so there's this guy here, there was this philosopher in this time, and oh, right, hang on. So his theories link up with the guy from 200 years ago, and then that guy took inspiration from this guy, and then this guy took inspiration from XXXXX, you know, and then you think, bloody hell, how many philosophers have there been? You know, you going down all these lists of people who've been inspired by other philosophers, and you're thinking, God, you know, there was this many philosophers, and you're meant to know, well, no, you're not meant to know every one of them, but you know what I'm like. I like to do things to be extreme. So I want to, by the time I'm about 50, pretty much know like something on all of the philosophers. But again, that's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none type area. So, you know, you got to weigh it up, because you got to think, right, well, specialize in, let's say, Oriental philosophy and know really, really well, let's say, 10 or 20 different philosophers in that sort of range, or you go broad and you do what's it called? Is it analytical philosophy, which concerns itself with the Western world? Anyway, I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, you could do like that and study the Oriental stuff and study the ancient Greek stuff, which it kind of comes into the Western world stuff anyway. But then, you know, you do all this, and then you read up a bit on psychology at the same time, and mythology and how that interlinks, and anthropology. Anthropology massively interlinks to philosophy as well, and that's something I want to read up. But it's like you just not got the time. I would love to do it, but I don't think I've got the time in my actual physical organism. Like, this physical organism won't last long enough to be able to see me through all this stuff. I'd love it if I was about 100. I could live for about 150. That'd be a good lifespan, because you could, if that was, let's say, double the age of, you know, 75, which is approximately what people live for, let's say, and that would be enough. That'd be good. But like, you know, when you live to 75, you could, let's say you read, even if you can read 50 pages of a book each day, like, you know, really reading it good, and obviously actually making a living alongside that in some way, regard, shape or form. So you can then, in your spare time, you read 50 pages of a book or whatever. But people will say, well, I could read a lot more than that. And other people will say, well, I probably would struggle at 50 pages. It depends. And it depends on the book, and depends on how complex the book is and all the rest of it. But you read that in a day, times that by 30, that's 1,500. Let's say the average book you read is 250 pages. That's then 4 books, 5 books, 6 books a month. Times that by 12, that's then 72 books a year. Times that by, let's say, you're reading for 60 years of your 75 years of life, which means you started at 15. That's then 720 in 10 years. Times that by 6. That's what? 6 times... That's 5,600, 20 times by 6, 5,720 books in your lifetime. Okay, yeah, okay. I take back my statement. 5,720 books in a lifetime. That's enough books to cover enough. Okay, I take it back. I was wrong. Went on doing the maths. I was wrong. You can read enough on probably about 5 real deep dive into 5 different, or maybe even 10 different topics. 10 different topics would be 572 books each topic. 572 books, an average of 250 pages per book. That is enough to master that. I would say that is enough to master that topic, because I've read about 20 books on philosophy, and I would consider myself okay. I mean, I'd consider myself between beginner and intermediate. So not master, of course, and not even between intermediate and master, but between beginner and intermediate. So, I mean, you think, well, what, 20 times that in books? Yeah, you'd be a master, easy. So, and again, I think is it 10,000 hours into each subject? And then that's roughly the amount of time that then you can, well, not class yourself as a master, but you are at the level of being able to master your craft. So, yeah. But I do love doing the maths on all these things and seeing how much it would actually take to do these things. Anyway, enough of that rambling. In it to flip it in, we've got Stu Mandry in. Hi there. General studies is probably like our combined studies. It means you can take a few subjects you're interested. Oh yeah, that's like well, it's similar to not. I think they call it an open degree, but it's not only an open degree. A combined degree or something you can take, something like that it's called, where you can pick 2 or 3 subjects into a degree. And in fact, if you go on the Open University, you can actually do, on there it's called an open degree, but I don't think it's necessarily called an open degree elsewhere. But on there you can do loads of different topics in one degree. So that's pretty cool. Right, and yeah, that's quite a variety of subjects. I did about 3 years of general stuff: English, sociology, psychology. Oh, right, okay, that's cool. So that's kind of what it is. Yeah, that's cool. I took general studies A level. It was a mix of topics: psychology, politics, art, history. Oh, that's interesting. See, I would have liked to done that now. I didn't get the option anyway at the time at college, but because I just went on a BTEC business course anyway, so I was just kind of straight business. But I do regret, because now I maybe not particularly the art history, but well, maybe the art history. Just I would like a nice historic background of what went on and where it all tied in to culture. That's what I suppose it'd be. Historic anthropology or something, would that be right? Or historic sociology, something like that. That's what I would like. That kind of. Sorry, I didn't mean click that. I just randomly clicked another comment there. Yeah, so I'd like something like that. That'd be good. But yeah, I didn't do that. I mean, I've looked up on my own, bits and bobs, and I used to research a lot of history on my own. And obviously, my age group was horrible histories as well, which I've probably talked about in the past, and so I got interested in history from that. Hi Ads, congratulations on getting into uni. You'll have the best time. Oh, thank you very much, Lex. Hopefully I will do. Yeah. It is pretty much a reality now, so it's weird. I actually said to my mum the other day, right, I've done so many bits and bobs over the last 3 or 4 months on uni and getting my statement out there and getting my overall, what do they call it, application out there, and doing student finance and this and that, and looking up at all the different courses. And even when I sent my application, it didn't feel real. But I said to my mum, it felt real when that video had gone live, the other day, and everyone was commenting on it. And I was thinking, this feels like the end of this chapter of my life and the start of a new one now. And it's not necessarily the end of a chapter, because the way I'm doing it, I'm still going to be doing reselling. I'm still going to be doing YouTube and stuff. So it's not necessarily the end, but it felt like that. And it wasn't necessarily a really negative thing. There was a little bit of a negative there, because I thought, I'm a bit sad. But in the end, it was more of a positive, because I was thinking, it segregates it, and I like that segregation of just, that's the end of that kind of chapter, and then this is the start of the new one kind of thing. It feels like that now. It feels as if I'm slow. I mean, really, we could class the next 6 months as as I said in the video, actually, or one of the videos, a transitional period. So it's kind of not quite the new, but it's not the old. And I quite like that as well. I quite like that, just being in this transitional period where obviously there's things going on, and it's almost like the eye of the storm in a way, because I'm not at the other side of it. I'm just kind of floating around at the moment, doing bits and bobs, but not really back out outside the storm that way, but not outside the storm that way, just in the middle, kind of in a little bit of harmony. And then there's going to be things that will come to test me, and there's been things that have come to test me, but I'm in this kind of zone at the moment, and it feels quite nice. And then we'll see how it goes in September and stuff. Because no doubt I'm going to be anxious. I'm going to be all over the place. I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm completely throwing myself into the unknown, into the deep end. We'll just see what it's like, really. But it'll be interesting. And I think a few people have said, don't know whether it was on Instagram messaging me or whether it was on YouTube comments or something, but someone said about, oh yeah, it's someone on Instagram actually, who said about vlogging at university in terms of possibly vlogging the trip there or vlogging my room when I first get there and stuff. And that might be something to do. It really depends on, because obviously that day or 2 days when I'm moving up there, it's going to be really hectic. But yeah. I would like to actually vlog that bit, because it would be a nice thing to get up on the channel and say this is the start of a new era now. And those who want to stick with it will stick with it, and those who don't won't, and that's fine in terms of on my YouTube viewers. But yeah, it would be nice to do that. But as I say, it might be very hectic those few days, so I'm not sure whether I'll be able to. Or if I do, I might have to do it, but it might not be the best video or something. I might just do a very quick video on it or something. My instructor said you should go full-time. I started following full-time in fine art studies. Best 4 years of my life. Wow, that's nice. Fine art studies. So is that because obviously I worked at the auction house and we used to get a load of fine art stuff in. So is that really looking at the best, the masterpieces of art? I guess you would specialize in a certain geographical location, so maybe English art or maybe Indian art or something like that, or maybe just Asian art as a whole. But no, it seems like that would be really interesting. It would be a really cool thing, especially if you can actually really get a lot of knowledge on those different paintings and stuff. And there's a lot of culturally rich, there's a lot of cultural richness in that in art, I feel, because it's an expression of pure creativity that comes from a certain time period, and you can really see what's going on from a psychological perspective in the mind of that individual who's painted it. And also, if we're talking in the realm of Jungian psychology, more of a collective expression of humanity as a whole in terms of what's going on at the time in that painting, especially if it is pertaining to some sort of war, or it's pertaining to some sort of thing that's going on at the moment, more on the macro environment of a society. That's really interesting. I've just realized we've got a super chat as well. Thank you very much. In it to flip it for the textbook one. I tell you, I know I've got so many to buy, so thank you very much. Anyway, I really do appreciate it. In it to flip it, I have got a lot of textbooks to buy. I don't, to be honest, I've not actually looked at the the recommended reading list in a lot of detail, but there's just loads of books that I know will help me. I've got on my Amazon wish list that I need to buy. I mean, I've got tons down there, as you can see. I mean, I've probably got enough, really, but well, you can't actually see them down there, but they're under that light. In fact, that light there is being propped up by a big stack of books, and then on the other side of it, there's more books. So I've got two big piles of books down there. Yeah, but I've got a lot of books that I wanna buy, and I can't wait to get buying some more books as well, because it'll be so interesting to go through them. But I've got so many books at the moment. I've got books to last me about 5-10 years or so. I mean, I'm gonna have to at uni really start just slowly picking through bits. So just pick through books, maybe just pick a chapter out and then read a chapter, because I don't think I'll be able to actually read full books. I mean, I'll be able to read full books for my own pleasure, but in terms of when I'm actually wanting something specific, I need to just pick little chapters to read, and I'm not taking up a load of time. But I've already got a reference document on my computer, because I've been writing. See all them books up there? Those ones there. Oh, I can't even do it with my finger. They're all the books I've read, And out of all of them, I've been or a lot of them, pretty much all of them, I've been writing down in my phone notes as I'm reading any little things that I could do for references over the past even 4, 5, 6 months, and then put them on a document. I am so I mean, I could write a book with the references I've got. In fact, I do want to write a book with. This is a problem, you see. It's almost that university might get in the way, because I'm at the level where I want to be writing books. I want to be out there in the field and actually contributing via philosophers that I've already read and I've learnt about. I want to use their ideas, reference them in books, obviously, and then build upon their ideas and present to the world some valid, thoughts and ideas of my own within that book. But university, you see, what happens is you go there, you do a load of papers, and you're spending a lot of time. This is why this is one of the reasons why I don't particularly like the education system. And I really should do a book on why I don't like the education system, because what happens is you're doing a load of, and this isn't just the only reason I don't like it. This is just a very minute, tiny reason I'm not particularly too fond of it. You do a load of essays, right? You're writing maybe 10,000 words or so, or 5,000 words, whatever, over years and years, loads of these you're doing. And they don't amount to anything. Yeah, okay, I know what someone's going to say. You can publish them in a book and you can entitle it like essays or whatever. Or, there's ways you can actually make use of them after university, but it's not good. What they should do is they should say, right, look, your university study is going to be you writing a book that you really want to do that will contribute to the field, and you've got 3 years, right? And in those 3 years, we want you to write 2 books or 3 books on X topics. And then what we'll do at the end of the 3 years is we'll assess the books for quality of referencing, of citing, the amount of references you've got in there in terms of, how valid you've backed up your own points and your own philosophical or whatever it may be, whatever subject you're in, your own ideas in the field and your own contribution, because you need to back up those ideas. You don't want to just place random ideas in there with no referencing. And we're going to look at the grammar in those books. We're going to really look at everything. We're going to be rigorous. And then what we're going to do is we're going to award you based on those books. And you'll find, right, and I'll tell you this for sure, right, you'll find that those brightest individuals, those really good ones, they'll get really stuck in and they'll get, the firsts or whatever quite easily. And then they've got books then that they can actually put on Amazon, that they can put in the stores, and they can make money from them. And they've started off as self-employed in their career, if that's what they want to do. If they don't want to do the books, in terms of they don't want to actually get any money off them, which I can't really see anyone not wanting to do that, because in this alternative, you're actually setting up an income source for yourself. Not only are you getting a degree, but you're setting up an income source for yourself. And then obviously there might be those who fall behind a bit and they're not that interested, and therefore they get the 2 2s or whatever, 2 1s or 2 3s, or although saying that 2 1's still good, but like a 2 2 or whatever. And that's how you do it. But that way, you're not wasting your time doing a load of assignments that, might be okay at the end of the day, but that you can't really do much with after university. Yes, I've heard from my friend, as I say, and I will reiterate this, you can publish them. My friend who's been at university as a doctor now, he did 5 years at uni, whatever, he said actually you can, there are ways that you can potentially get them in magazines and things like that, or something like that. Maybe not magazines, but some sort of, what do we call it? Literary articles or something like that anyway. But it's not good enough for me. And I don't really, this is my problem, I don't really want to be spending 4 years of my life typing up, because I'm not bothered about a piece of paper. I'm a philosopher. Why would I be bothered about a piece of paper? I'm not bothered. I know that this is all conceptual concepts. I know that, a piece of paper doesn't mean anything. And when I'm dead, it won't mean anything. And even when I'm alive, it doesn't mean anything. It's just someone in authority who is literally no smarter than me, or maybe a little bit smarter than me, but not really that smart anyway. They're just a human at the end of the day. They don't really know what they're doing in this thing that we call life. They've decided we're going to put a value on this, and it's going to have worth in society, but it's only because via consensus we agree that that piece of paper has worth, that it actually has worth. But if we were to actually fall into a crumbling society, that piece of paper wouldn't mean anything. It wouldn't feed you, because you'd have to go out there and actually kill something to feed yourself, or pick off a tomato off the branch. So these pieces of paper don't mean anything. That's why I'm not bothered about it. But I am bothered about the time, and so I don't think, it's. But I mean, I'm just ranting now, but I don't think it's the best way. If you're an artist, right? And I think that most probably, I don't know, I've not really looked into how art is evaluated at university level, although I did do art in GCSE. And what we did is we did like a 10-hour art exam. And we basically had to come up with something creative in that time based on a certain idea that we've got, a certain set of parameters that we got. And so that's not too bad, because then you actually come out with a piece that is pertaining to the thing that you want to do completely. And you could, if you want to, I suppose you could sell it, or at least you've got something to be proud of. You got something that is directly what you are intending to do after university. The only problem with assessing art on a time basis is that you're stifling creativity, because there was people in our class who were very brilliant artists, absolutely marvelous artists. I was in awe of how brilliant they were. And the thing is, this one guy didn't finish his piece. Now, it's a brilliant, absolutely brilliant piece, even though it was unfinished. But he didn't finish his piece, you see, in the time. And I don't know what he got in terms of his grade. He might have got a U, or he might have got a D or a C or something. He probably got something. He probably didn't get a U. He probably got something just because of how good the piece was anyway. But you see, when you doing something like art, you can't restrict a creative person by time in such a way, unless you're going to give them a fair time. I mean, we had a 10-hour art exam. 10 hours is not enough for a really highly creative person to get a good piece done. They need way more than that. They need 5 times that. Really, they need even more than that, but 5 times that, kind of a minimum. So a really good piece of art. I mean, you're really being conscious, really getting everything in there. You're doing some sort of sculpture or whatever. I'm thinking along those terms. Possibly if you're doing a painting, you might be able to get it done in a little bit less time. But if you're doing a sculpture, which is what we did, sculptures, can take a long time if you want them really right. So again, that's the problem. That's the downfall there. But I don't know how it's structured in the education at university with regards to art. But anything creative like that, you can't necessarily give people too much of a fixed time scale. But that's just my opinion on it. It's funny because I'm doing a degree, and I'm going to do a degree, and all I'm doing is moaning about how I don't like degrees. But it's the truth. I've always been very open about it. I've always said, in the past, I've always said I'm not too hell-bent on how the education system is run. I know so many people who are a lot smarter than me as well, are saying that, like that. They say, no, we don't, and no one bloody changes it. Not one person changes it. We all argue about it, we all moan about it, but not one person changes it. And it's a philosopher's job to try and change the world, although it's a very dangerous thing to try and change the world. So you've got to be very careful how you do it. Anyway, let me go down chat, because I'm way down. Let me have a look. Right. Well, sorry, actually, yeah. I said or in it to flip it said textbook. Someone's just put there, I'd save up some money. Textbooks can be very expensive. Yeah. I say textbooks. I'm not actually getting textbooks. I'm getting, even if on the recommended reading there's textbooks, I won't really be buying them, because philosophy isn't really a subject for textbooks. It's a subject for Plato's Republic. It's a subject for maybe even Dante's Paradiso, or whatever it's called, or is that right? Paradiso? I'm not sure. But it's a subject for these kind of things, or even the Bible, or the Quran, or something like that. Oh, it's a bit laggy there, is that? As soon as I say it's a bit laggy, it just goes fine again. That's weird. Anyway, but it's a subject for all these texts in existence, all these books that relate to it somewhat, but it's not really a subject for textbooks. You see, I feel like I'd be, again, that's something else that I could argue, that I'd be wasting my time a bit with textbooks. I want to read via a direct source. I mean, even if I could, this would be a lot of my predecessors, and I say that in a very broad, open way, a lot of my predecessors were very well up on being able to understand Sanskrit and Chinese and things like that. And so they actually studied the ancient texts, the real nitty gritty stuff, right, thousands of years ago, before it was translated. So therefore they could get a complete understanding of it, rather than what you see in textbooks and what you see in modern interpretations or modern translations of certain different philosophical texts, or any sort of text really, or any information, is people, they somewhat don't interpret it in the best way. Some people do, some people don't. So I always find it's very, very good. It's very best thing you can do to go as far back as you can and look at the original text if you can. Now, saying that, I've got on that ream there of things, the Tao Te Ching, and I've also got the Hu Wei Ching as well, which were two main texts of Lao Tzu, the unknown teachings of Lao Tzu, Hu Wei Ching, and the Tao Te Ching, which is the main teachings of Lao Tzu, and the main teachings of Taoism, Chinese philosophy. Spelt with a T though, not D. Well, it can be Romanized with a D, but it's spelt with a T. Anyway, so those translations are modern translations. One was done in the 90s by Stephen Mitchell, and another one was done not so long ago, maybe even in the 2000s, by, I don't know, Brian Walker or something his name is. Now, I've gone back and I've looked at loads of different kind of references for the Tao Te Ching. I've looked at different people's interpretation of it, not just those two, but other things online as well. I've not necessarily read, I've not got physical copies of them, but I've read them online. And I've got a general consensus of what the right interpretation should be, essentially. Even though I've not looked at the actual Chinese, the base Chinese text, because I can't read Chinese. This is why I'd love to read Chinese, because then I could read it for myself and be able to interpret it myself on a first-hand perspective. That's the best thing you can get. Always get a first-hand perspective of these things. Then you don't have to rely on someone else to tell you what something is. You can do it yourself, right? So anyway, but I've got a general consensus of what is a correct translation. And those two people there, Stephen Mitchell and Brian Walker, I think it's Brian Walker. I feel like that's a celebrity as well, Brian Walker. I'm not sure anyway. But those two really do really understand Lao Tzu, and really understand what his teachings brought forth and what they were about. Because it is very, very easy to misunderstand, misrepresent Lao Tzu, because a lot of things in there, for example, the master does nothing, but nothing is done. But nothing is not. What is it? Wait, no. The master does nothing, but nothing is left undone. That's it. There we go. I got it in the end. So the master does nothing, but nothing is left undone. Now, someone who's not well versed in Chinese philosophy will think, oh, right, so basically you're saying someone who is a master at something shouldn't do anything. Well, no, that's not what Lao Tzu is saying. He's saying that you should have phrased it in terms of the master does little. But obviously, it's kind of over-exaggerated in a way. Lao Tzu is kind of over-exaggerated, or even maybe the first translator of Lao Tzu has over-exaggerated it. But he doesn't mean that. He means that the master does little. He or she doesn't force things. They simply flow naturally with the circumstance, or with whatever's going on, whatever they're trying to achieve, essentially. So it's not that the master doesn't do anything. It's that they flow naturally, and they take minimal effort, and they just glide with life, essentially. And so, and therefore everything's achieved in the process, but they're taking minimal effort. So you see, if you're new to Chinese philosophy, you won't know that. You'll just read it as, oh, well, the master does nothing. And then you'll be sat there, if, let's say, you're like me, and what I term a practical philosopher being someone who actually takes on board philosophical texts and actually applies them to their own life. A lot of Stoics do that. So if you're like me, like that, you'll just sit there, not doing anything, thinking, well, what do I do? I can't do this. I can't do something, because then that's going against the philosophy, and I can't. But if I do nothing, then I'm trapped. So then you get yourself into a double bind, and then you only get out of that by understanding the text more, and also understanding yourself more and your own psychology, and also just understanding life more. And then you start to understand, you start to flow, and then obviously once you understand more, you can then realize how you can get into these ways of doing it that were obviously talked about properly in the text. But it's marvelously interesting, really, when you get. That's why I love Chinese philosophy, because it's very funny if you think about it. It's very like you don't know what's going on, you don't know how to do it, and then you get out of that. It sets up a borderline of anxiety first off when you read it, and you're like, oh, I don't. It's a borderline confusion as well. You don't know what's going. How can I do this? What does he mean by this? I don't get it. How do I do it? But then you realize, as you more study it and you get into it more and you hear other people's interpretations of it, and you realize that you start to realize what it actually is saying, you start to end up, right, okay, I get it now. And then you can really start going with the philosophy, essentially. But it does confuse you, and it makes you like all over the place. And that in a way is very good, because it helps center you. It helps that kind of anxiety or confusion with it helps kind of really it helps you embody the philosophy more as you obviously get more experienced with it, because you've had that first little bit of, oh, I don't know, I'm unsure, I'm not sure. It's almost like when let's say you were training in karate or something, and then you get kicked to the floor every time, but it's every kick to the floor that helps you, that actually helps you get back up and think, right, well, how can I not get kicked to the floor next time? And then you build up more experience, and therefore you get better at karate or whatever it may be. So, and that's very much how practical philosophy is. If you're a practical philosopher, you go through all these texts and you're like, oh, I don't know how, I haven't a clue what to do here. I'm a bloody fool. I'm a bloody idiot. And then you get to realize that it's actually you being a bloody fool that ends up making you better in the process. And then you realize, oh, right, okay, I sort of get it now. And you can flow with the philosophy then, and you're cool. But it's a right funny process. It is. It really is. It's funny. Anyway, well, let's go down. Ads, do you have any specific courses chosen yet? I don't know what you mean by specific courses. I have. So the course is philosophy and religion. That's the main course. Do you mean I'm trying to. So I'm wondering what the correct word is for this, but what we have different kind of options, I suppose, within the course. So you can do optional, that's it, units. That's the word I'm looking for, units. So you can actually select optional units. Now, there's a lot of stuff in this course, absolutely tons of stuff. There's metaphysics, there's fundamentalism, there's Christianity, Islam, all the different religions. Going to give me a really, really good grounding. There's Buddhism, there's Hinduism, there's Oriental stuff like that. There's Kant, I think, is in there. There's Jung, there's Nietzsche, loads and loads of different stuff. And there's also, maybe even included in a few of them, but also on top of those, there's also other units that are optional. And I've not, as I say, I don't know whether I did say, but I've not really chosen those specifically yet. I've not, hard hit it and looked down the list and thought, oh yeah, I'll have that, and that. There's also one on existentialism. I'd quite like to do that. I'm not an existentialist, but I really do. I can relate to the philosophy quite a lot. I think it's a very, very sound philosophy. I think it's probably the best or one of the best philosophical advancements in the last 100, 200 years. I really do. I think it's a very good philosophy. But as I say, I'm not an existentialist personally. But no, so there's loads of different things, but I haven't selected any specific units yet. Anyway, why is the curtain moving? I don't know. I didn't see the curtain move. It's not moving, is it? Maybe it was moving a minute ago. The cat's not in here anyway, so I don't know. It's not. Yeah, odd anyway. We got KLC in the chat actually. Hang on, that was at 7:06. What are we on now? 7:23. Bloody hell, I'm way down in the chat, aren't I? Yeah, 2-1 is good. Yeah, I know. I was a bit hasty to say 2-1's like a bit lower down. No, 2-1's good. 1 or 2-1 is good. I'd say like 2-2. Like for example, if I got a 2-2, I'd be a bit, I'd want a 2-1 minimum. First would be good, but thing is, I'd get a first easy if it was. I say easy. I'm not that good. Let's come down off my high horse. I think I would get a first. Let's say that. I think I would get a first. Provided that I was obviously doing a lot more research over the years of the university course in the Oriental side of things. I think in those units I'd get really high marks, but the problem is in other units I wouldn't. So there's a unit called political philosophy that I don't think I'll get a real high mark on. So then on it as an average, it'd bring me down to about 2-1. So probably it would. So yeah, I don't know, about 2-1 minimum, but I'd be brilliant if I got first. But I'm just setting myself up too higher standard there. But that's what I always do. That I can't help myself. I always have to set myself too high a standard. But no, I'd be happy with 2-1. 2-1 would be all right. If I got a first in my BA, and then if I did a master's, and then I got a 2-1, I don't know, is master's the same in terms of its grading? I'm not sure. But if it is, then if I could get a first in the BA and then a 2-1 in the master's, that'd be pretty cool. Don't know what I'm doing my master's on at the moment. If I do one, I want to do. I was going to say I could do a master's in philosophy of the mind, but I don't think there's that specific degrees. But it would be comparative philosophy or Asian philosophy if I was doing a master's, I suppose. If I couldn't do the philosophy of the mind, because I would really like to do philosophy of the mind as well. I don't know whether there is much of philosophy of the mind, but I don't think there's ontology in the course. I mean, it will be touched on a little bit, I'm sure, but it's not an actual unit in the course. Ontology or also what's the other one? Epistemology, the philosophy of knowledge. They're pretty cool. Ontology, the philosophy of being, and epistemology, the philosophy of knowledge. Don't know whether they're in there, but I hope they are. I hope they're at least touched on a bit, because I don't really know that much on them. Metaphysics. I love metaphysics. I'm pretty good with that. I mean, all I just say is metaphysics. You could say anything. I mean, you could say that the universe is a bit of spittle on the inside of a balloon, and there's my metaphysics, essentially. And then the spittle on the balloon is in a giant world that then is encapsulated inside the bubble of an even further giant world. I mean, okay, yeah, this is pseudo-metaphysics, we could call it, but still, I love doing all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Anyway, bring back your old intro, please. What old intro? Oh, right. Oh, I thought that was Steve. Why did I think that was Steve then? What old intro? What was the old intro? I can't remember what the old. I change intros so much that I can't remember what the old intros were. Soldan Funny said, please hear you're taking your interest to the next level. Not been on here for ages, so this is news to me. Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of came back to the channel for that video. So, because I think I had a few comments actually, or maybe one person commented who I don't think I'd seen in a while. So it was quite nice actually. Hi Louise, hope your other half is looking after you. Not Andrew. I don't even get. Oh right, okay, I get it, because she put you as ill, wasn't she? Right. Let me have a look. Oh, where am I now? Let me go down. One sec. All right, we're okay, we're cool there. Anyway, has anyone got any questions? Because I've just been rambling for 45 minutes of this episode. I've not seen any questions in the chat, so I'm assuming no one has any, but yeah, if you've got any questions, whack them in the chat. Well, actually, no, I think I have seen a few questions. I might have answered a couple, but I just forget when I've answered them. Matisse, Van Gogh, all the giants are interesting too. Oh, cool, interesting. I don't even seen any of Matisse. I know Van Gogh. I've got the only reason I know Van Gogh is because he was in that Doctor Who episode, and I like that Doctor Who episode. Picasso, I think I've heard of Picasso. He was a guy. I think I've watched an interview of him actually. He smoked a cigar and drank whiskey, didn't he, and all the rest of it. And wasn't his quite sort of, I don't know, square designs, but it wasn't the ones with like circles in and stuff. So there was like a square like that, and then it was crossed like that, and there was circles in like that. I'm not sure, but yeah. eBay for tech, but yeah, definitely. I've been looking on eBay. I've got a load on my Amazon, but I need to actually. So on my Amazon, I've got all my books, but I need to actually go onto eBay and then see if I can get them cheaper on eBay, and then obviously take them off my wish list on Amazon. Working hard today, Peter. Wow, what did Peter say then? Plus Louise's dad. Louise's dad? Why are you talking to Louise's dad? What's that? What is going on? I don't even know. Who's behind you? Does anyone see that black figure? What black figure? That there. That's not that. There. That. That's a stat hand. Hat stand. Stat hand. Really? Stat hand. I'm gonna say that. Hat stand there. Yeah, so we've had the curtains moving, and now we've had a black figure behind me. What is going on? What are people saying? I tell you. He loves me, Louise. Indeed, we don't need black masses or ghosts. Some people. The recommended textbooks usually included all the reference points for each module. Yeah, I know, but it's like. Right, for example, let me give you an example here. So you've got a unit on, I don't know, Buddhism. And they say, right, we're going to give you this book, and it's it's some sort of book on Buddhism for beginners or something. I don't know, something like that. Or they give you a textbook of Buddhist thought or something. But you see, I know there's let me 1 second. Let me. Right. These are just a couple of the books, right? I've got a lot of books on Buddhism, but they will not show you that one in your recommended reading. This is The Secret Oral Teachings in Tibetan Buddhist Sects. Oh, it sounds too much like it for me. Anyway, so and this is by Alexandra David Neal and Lama Yogden or something there. I think that's him there. I'm not sure. I'm not 100%. But this is one of those books that you don't really learn about. You won't learn about. So the references from this book are worth so much more in the eyes of a professor. For them, imagine reading. Right. Okay. Let me get this one. Right. Okay. Right. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're a professor and you've got a PhD in philosophy. And you've got a student who gives you a paper, and for the most part, they reference books like this, right? Buddhism, Plain and Simple, Steve Hagen. Nothing against this book. I've not read it yet, but I'm sure it's a brilliant book on the basics of Buddhism. Fine. Okay. Standard. Good. So you have someone who just references books like that, and they maybe put 10, 15 references in, and they're all books like that. Now, someone else, another student, comes in, and they're marking this paper, and 10 or 15 references of real unknown deep dive books. The Secret Oral Teachings in Tibetan Buddhist Sects. This is really niche. This is really niche stuff. This is really getting down deep. And from what I've heard, I've not read this one yet. From what I've heard, there is a lot of gold information about Buddhism in here. So you think the professor reading this 10 or 15 references of these really niche books, and maybe even a couple of references of the more broad books like them as well in there. Oh, got first. You got a first, mate. I'm sorry, but you got a first. That's what he's like. He is having a mental orgasm over this. Well, not over the student, but over the student's work. He's like, oh my God, this is my successor. This is the guy who, when I'm gone, can take my place. This is the guy who's going to carry the torch, we don't want to be, so there's my case in point. Okay. For the whole textbooks thing, step off the beaten track, people. Step off the greats of the world. Don't read they might read the textbooks, and that's fair enough, fine to do. But read the and I will most probably read some of the textbooks, but read the textbooks and really deep dive into the real niche stuff that not many people talk about. That's how you win. That's how you get up there. That's how you win. Anyway, why am I preaching? I'm not a preacher. Well, actually, sometimes I am, but anyway. Oh, actually, I didn't show you that one. That's again, that's another. It's not a niche book at all, but it's by a very famous Zen master, D.T. Suzuki, who was a translator of Zen text to English in sort of 20th century. I think he was born in the 19th century, but he lived till like 1970. He actually was 90 or something when he died. But yeah, so the manual of Zen Buddhism, that is. So again, but that's a good one. That's a solid, good reference, by a Zen master himself, by a very reputable Zen master at that. And so, yeah, that's another good one. I got that used off eBay. Look, it's a bit worn and stuff, but I was happy because I got it for like £2 or £3 or something. I don't know, quite very cheap. So I was happy with that. Skiddle-diddle-doo-doo-doo, skiddle-doo-doo-doo-doo, skiddle-doo-doo-doo, spoo-doo-doo, middle-diddle-doo-doo-choo. Right, let me go down. Does anyone have any reason? Well, that's what I was asking. I said, does anyone have any questions? And I was assuming that people had asked me some reselling questions included in that. But anyway. Sold some shoes that cost me £3 for £45, so I'm happy with that. Today has been good. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, that's not too bad. What's your profit on £3 into £45 then? That's going to be like 35-ish, something like that, maybe a bit more. That's not too bad. Brody, I don't know whether I've seen you in the chat. Hi there. Hi, Ed, how are you? I am doing good. We've just been rambling this week. We're now 53 minutes in, and it's literally just been rambling, basically. YouTube is always watching. I tell you, what do you mean? If a reseller falls over, say at home after tripping over a toy, and no bed scene doesn't make it. Oh, brilliant! Oh, that's awesome, Stu. Oh, blooming hell! What's all this? Coronavirus has just reached Northern Ireland. I tell you, everyone's just saying, oh, about the coronavirus. Oh, don't worry about it too much. It'll be all right. Things will happen. It's worldwide zombie plague now, Andrew. Oh God. Oh, I heard a virologist or something on the radio the other day, and he was saying that there's a possibility if everyone in the world breathes in the coronavirus, right, well, after a year or so, we'll get what's known as herd immunity. So it's where basically everyone's breathed it in, haven't they? And it just everyone's immune to it. That's weird, isn't it? So the people who die from it, obviously it's like a 2 to 3% death rate. People who die from it will end up sadly dying, but the rest of us will just be immune. I mean, I don't know. I might be one of the people who die from it. You don't know, but the rest of the people who are left, then the people who are just immune to it. It's odd that, but the issue not the issue, but the thing that really hits me with it spreading so much is nothing else but babies. Babies and young kids, because obviously it's been said that it hits the real young people and then the older people as well. And of course, it's sad for the older people, but they've had a long life. They've lived a long and hopefully happy life. But certainly for the kids, that's what gets me. And that's what worries me, because every now and then, just the last few weeks, it's only been a passing thought, but I think, the babies, their immune system and stuff, they don't have much of an immune system. It's not, they're not really grown up. They're not, I don't know. I don't pretend to know how the immune system works or anything. I'm not a doctor or a biologist or whoever would deal with that. I suppose assume a doctor. I should know, because I've got my best friend's a bloody doctor, but so I should know that it's him who deals with that. So it must be a doctor. But anyway, I assume that they don't have the immune system to cope with it, so therefore they're more susceptible and they may die from it. And it's like, bloody hell. So yeah, that's what worries me about it, really. But the thing about the herd immunity, that was interesting, that I heard with it. But when you understand it more, it's a very interesting thing, these viruses and diseases. I mean, obviously, that's looking at it from more of an objective standpoint and removing your humanity and your feelings a little bit. But and obviously, you don't want to do that to too much of an extent. You still want to be a human, but I kind of had those feelings with it. I had that very human, raw feeling around it. And then what I did was I got this other objective perspective on it. And it's been nice to have a look at it in this objective way and just understand it a little bit more, really. But it is what it is at the moment, the situation, isn't it? And we just have to hope that, at the end of the day, it doesn't get crazy big. I mean, it's already, as I'm aware, it's a fairly big thing. It's a fairly big kind of pandemic and stuff. But I'm sure there's been way over bigger ones in the past. And so I reckon, things like Black Death or something. I mean, in terms of the death rate, it's in no comparison anyway to something like that. But I'm talking about the numbers. But I still think it's probably no comparison. So, yeah. Right, then let's have a look down the chat. I thought we'd get a couple of questions. Is there not any questions in it? Oh, no, wait. This was still before. I'm still before when I asked the question about getting questions. Oh, God. I'm so far behind in the chat, then. I'm really so far behind. Yeah, my brother's school is closed because kids came back from an Italy trip. Wow. Yeah, it is getting like that, though, now, isn't it? Where people's... they're saying if anyone comes back from Italy, they have to self-isolate and stuff, don't they? Right, and let me go up the chat. Oh, I'm so far behind. Right, I'm gonna have to just go down the chat like really quick in a sec. No one is allowed to have the coronavirus near me. You just have to get a load of tins and just stay in, basically. How I run the country. Now I run the country. Oh, I'm bloody hell. Think I got you. What? Oh, yeah, you told me what you did, didn't you, Andrew? Oh, I forgot what you said. What degree you did? Oh, I forgot what degree you did, but yeah. I didn't know you got a 2-1 though. Sorry, I'm just reading. I'm just reading people's chat. What do you think about reselling brands like Supreme? Well, I'm not really that well up on the whole Supreme thing. I know that people... I've seen it on YouTube actually a couple of times where people go down to the stores, don't they, or something, and is it a brand that only is very, very exclusive and only basically gives sells a certain amount of stuff, a certain amount of products? And then obviously they put that in the bin or whatever, don't sell it, discontinue it or whatever, and then create a new product, right? Is it something like that, isn't it? And I've seen where people actually are queuing up and stuff to get them, and I think they're quite expensive as well. But I'm not really into branded clothing myself, so this is why I don't really know too much of it. But I would say that, I mean, you have got a bit of a moral perspective here in terms of, let's say, if you were to manage to get your hands on a lot of them, and let's say it was a limited edition thing, then, you cornered the market, or you could have cornered the market, and then you can basically charge extortionate prices for them. But, I mean, at the end of the day, coming from a reseller's perspective, from, not playing devil's advocate, because I am a reseller myself, so that phrase wouldn't really work, but just kind of coming at it from a reseller's perspective, I would say, yeah, if you want to resell it, then go for it. All I would say really is just don't, if let's say it is this discontinued thing, don't charge like crazy price. For example, if it's, I don't know what it is for a t-shirt or anything, maybe it's 100 quid for a t-shirt, and then you get a load of them and we go discontinued. Don't charge like, $1,000 for it or something. That's ridiculous. Maybe charge 200-300 quid or something for it. But don't go like mental and charge $1,000, because then that's just like proper OTT with your pricing. But yeah, I mean, if you want to profit off it, then fair enough. And there are going to be people who are still going to pick them up. Maybe if they can get $1,000 from them, they're still going to end up getting $1,000 from them. But to me, that's like a bit excessive. And what I've always worked it with my reselling as well is, of course I'm looking to make a profit, but this is the whole function of best offers and stuff. So, I might have paid £1 for something and I put it on for £20. Now that's a very good margin. But if someone offers me £15 and, it's been on there for a while, I'll be like, yeah, go for it. And so there's always got to be some sort of fairness in there as well. And a bit of like, look, I was going to say, well, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. It's not necessarily that. Oh, my analogies are failing tonight, aren't we? But, it's always got to be a bit of that, I suppose, just helping the customer out a little bit and not necessarily just being completely annoying with your pricing in terms of just going sky high. It's fine to make a profit and it's fine to make even a decent profit, but if you're like just being almost extortionate with your pricing, you got to think about it. You got to think, well, can I live with myself, knowing that I'm charging crazy prices for it? I think there should be a sort of an internal limit or an internal line in yourself as to say, well, what's my limit here? Now, it's a different story when, let's say, you're picking up something for £1 at a car boot, and maybe you don't know it's worth a lot of money or whatever, and it turns out that item's worth £200 or something. Yeah, go for it, whack it on for £200 because it's a one-off item. You're not necessarily like buying up all the stock, taking it away from everyone else, and then charging extortionate prices for it. So therefore, it's a kind of different circumstance. But if you are in that retail arbitrage kind of field, then certainly try and get the best profit you can. And if you want to buy up X amount, then buy up X amount. But just don't go mental with it. I mean, just don't go like crazy high with it, because it just and I come from two different perspectives with this, because I come from the reseller's perspective, but I also have watched quite a lot of Doctor Who YouTubers, and I've watched quite a lot of Doctor Who YouTubers who have big Doctor Who figure collections. And it's always with the B&M stuff. Now, I don't really feel, well, one side of me feels maybe that the Doctor Who stuff, sometimes people actually overprice them on eBay and stuff. But saying that, I mean, the Doctor Who figures, I think the TARDIS and the John Pertwee one was in B&M for £20, and then brought on eBay for 70, £80. Now, for me, I wouldn't say that's an incredible extortionate price or anything like that. And if resellers want to do that, then that's okay. But of course, you coming from that other perspective of that fan who really wants that item and then they can't get it because all the resellers bought it up and then they've put it on eBay for 4 times the amount. Coming from that perspective, you can see why people would have an issue with it and even possibly think it was immoral. So I think we just have to be aware of that, and we have to just not take it to the nth degree. We have to be fair at the end of the day. And especially also doing it even by customer basis. I mean, you don't know really. You can never know if someone's being 100% genuine. But, let's say a customer comes and says to you, look, I'm a really big fan of this franchise, etc. Any chance I could have a bit of a discount on it? And it might be a retail arbitrage item, and they've not been able to get their hands on it at a supermarket. And they're being quite honest and just fair with you. At least you think they are. They're not being annoying with you or anything like that. Then fair enough. You give them a bit of a discount or something and be nice about it, really. But anyway, I've rambled enough on that one, so we'll leave that one. Hello, Ed. Congratulations on your future plans. I went in 1993. You went in 93, so wow, that's crazy. Yeah, so you did art, didn't you? I think, Nick. Was it art and design or something, was it? Actually, we've had a couple of people in here who've done art at university. Are you going to post more on your philosophy channel now that you be studying it more? I have got about 10 videos that I'm yet to edit for my philosophy channel. I don't really edit them much. I just literally kind of put them in my editing software and just clip bits here and there. But they always seem to fall to the bottom of the pile. I know it's weird because I'm really interested in philosophy, but they always seem to just fall to the bottom of the pile. And yeah, okay, if I'm being honest, it must be something to do with the fact that I don't get paid for my philosophy channel and I get paid for doing this channel. So even though it's not a lot, there must be some sort of psychological element to that. I'm not sure. But no, I have got about 10 videos. I just need to edit them and put them up. in terms of when I'm at uni, I don't think I'll be doing much more with the philosophy channel. I think I'll just be doing videos every now and then, because it's one of those channels now that I've realized it's just a channel that I'm just going to publish every now and then, and it's a channel for my own documentation. So for myself being able to go back and look at videos and look at my own kind of hypothesis on certain things and be able to actually reference that to people or in my work at some point. So be able to actually go back and look at one of those videos and think, oh, so I spoke about this in relation to this person's work. Oh, that's something I might like to include in this assignment. Oh, you know what? I just use a bit of that. It's almost like a transcript, you know, when someone has typed something up and then they've obviously, we've done a video and then they've typed something up of that. It's almost like the video is the basis for the assignment in a way. It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. It's sort of like that. So of course I've got that. I've got that there for that, and I can do that. All I need to do from the videos is add the actual references in from the books that are backing up my points, because obviously on the videos I don't include references. I might casually remark, oh, I got this off Alan Watts, or I got this off Joseph Campbell, or I got this off Jung, or I got this off Socrates or Plato, or I got this off Heraclitus, or I got this off da-di-da. Lao Tzu, of course, is a big one who I reference in the videos. But I don't actually provide valid references in videos because you can't really do that. I'm not gonna state on the video, oh, I got this from page 62 of this book by da-di-da. It's just weird. It's not a natural conversation. But certainly, I'd need to actually put that in the assignment. But yeah, that's kind of somewhat the videos really. Now they didn't originally start as that, or I didn't originally think of them having that use because I wasn't going to university when I started those videos. But it's now that I've realized, oh, actually those videos can serve that purpose. So yeah, it's pretty good. But I will be doing them, but it's on and off. It really is on and off. What's your philosophy on ghosts, or to anyone in the chat? I don't believe in ghosts. I don't really have a philosophy on ghosts. Now, saying that, I have a couple of friends who do believe in ghosts, who've had experiences of ghosts, or potentially had experiences of ghosts. And so from a kind of first-hand empirical, well, not first-hand of myself, but their first-hand empirical experience, I don't want to necessarily say that they're outright wrong, because I'm sure they did see something. It's just what that actually is. Can we term it ghost? Is that the right term for it? Can we term it some sort of entity? Can we term it spiritual energy? I don't know what we can term it. And if it is that so many of these people have had experiences of that kind, we need to then think, well, there's clearly something there, but how do we define it? Now, to me personally, I wouldn't say that those anyone who's had experiences with ghosts is talking nonsense or anything, but I would look for what's going on in their life, what's going on inside themselves, because it might be a case in some circumstances. I'm not saying in all circumstances, but in some circumstances, it could be a case of there's something within their psychology at that time. Maybe they've got a lot of pressure on and things like that. And I'm going to give the horrible scientific materialistic answer of, oh, well, it's possibly something, just a trick of their eyes or something. I think it's a little bit more than that. I think it's possibly that somehow their mind can project an image outside their body through their kind of psychological stress that they're having. Much like, let's say, you can get psychosomatic symptoms in your body, and you can actually have physical illness from a mental a mental origin. What if you could have actually sort of a physical projection that only you can see, but that's a manifestation of, let's say, something that's going on in your mind from stress or whatever it may be? I don't know. But what if that's possible? And so we have to think about that in a more scientific kind of reductionistic way. If, let's say, I'm being more spiritual about it, we'll say, well, we could say that that comes from a spiritual or transcendent dimension of some regard in which exists aside from this material dimension. Or we could even take another more scientific, well, not a scientific view necessarily in terms of scientifically proven, let's say science fiction viewpoint of in the realm of physics. So a lot of physicists do believe, even to this day, that multiverses can exist and possibly do exist. What if that is some sort of energy bleeding through from a multiverse? In fact, some physicists believe that the gravity, I think gravity from this universe could seep through into other universes. Well, if gravity can seep through or can merge into other universes, why can't some other energy of some sort? And maybe that's more of a slightly scientific, sort of scientific but science fiction view. So we can look at it at many different angles, and that would be my philosophy. And I think I don't have one overall philosophy of it. I have a few different ideas that aren't really progressing anywhere with it, like everyone else, because we don't know, we don't have enough information on it. It's the same with reincarnation and things like that. We can say we can say that people have had experiences in terms of they have come back and they're a little girl or a little boy, and they know that they had that life before them, but that is obviously from their first hand. That's empirical evidence, or that's their own kind of personal understanding, but it's not enough. We need something there. In a more scientific viewpoint, we need something more there, essentially. And so we can also say, let's say, in a view of reincarnation, and this is my personal, my kind of penchant or direction of my understanding of it, and I quite like this understanding of reincarnation. So you have a person, right, and they die, and then someone else comes up who's new, right, but they're a new person, and they don't remember their last life, but they did have a last life. So, for example, I am living this life, and I might have had many, many past lives, but because I've got a brain, and that brain is physical in this physical realm and will disintegrate in this physical realm, I then go into the nothingness of death. But then after that nothingness of death, don't know the time period. In fact, within nothingness, we could argue that time doesn't exist. It's a non-entity. So therefore, it wouldn't even matter the time period. But after that nothingness, which, relatively speaking for us could be 50 years, but actually we wouldn't know it because we're just not there. We're not in any sort of being. We then get plopped back into the world again as another person, but we don't remember the last life because we don't have the physical brain. That previous physical brain disintegrated, so we don't have that. So the next person is a brand new person, doesn't remember anything about the last life, but can experience it again. And again, that comes from the philosophy of not only Buddhist and Hindu philosophy, but also the extension that Alan Watts made of the idea of what did he call it? I forgot what he called it. He did call it a term anyway, but it's kind of it's sort of in his idea of the religion of no religion. Well, not necessarily specifically his idea, but there's a few others at the time who were coming up with this idea of the religion of no religion. And it's almost interwoven with that. And it's also interwoven with the idea, well, could you say it's interwoven with the idea of enlightenment? Kind of, I suppose, but in Buddhist or Hindu idea of the word enlightenment. But it's not really that, because enlightenment is just the non-conceptual anyway. So, and you can't actually you can't define what enlightenment is. There's no definition of enlightenment. As soon as you define enlightenment, so for example, if I say to you, oh, well, that idea of reincarnation comes into the idea of enlightenment, that's immediately wrong, because enlightenment doesn't follow any conceptual idea. So when I say, oh, well, that's enlightenment, you can't know, because enlightenment isn't that. It isn't that, because that's a concept. If ever you can apply a concept to something, you can't say that is enlightenment. I can't say that this mug of tea is enlightened, because by doing that, by saying that, by attributing that conceptual ideal to it, it's not enlightened, and therefore you can't say that is a definition of enlightenment. But no, it comes into one of Alan Watts' ideas there, and it's an idea that's very, very interesting in terms of reincarnation, and actually it could hold a scientific basis. I mean, there needs to be, there's a bit of a missing link, because hang on, how can someone come back from nothingness? That's the missing link. So yeah, okay, it works scientifically, because you can say, right, okay, so the brain disintegrates, then you go into nothingness, then you come back as someone else, and you don't remember your past life because you actually have a body. And we all know you have to have a brain to have memory, to store memory, and that's the only way you're going to be able to remember things. So it kind of works scientifically, but there's that missing link. If we only knew what was in that unknown, which we'll never know, so it's pointless even trying to try, but that's the job of a philosopher in some regard. But you know, we don't know, but if we knew, then we could link it up, and then we could say, right, okay, so this is how it works, or that's how it works, or the other is how it works. But it's not necessarily we need to define this. It's just, it's interesting to talk about it at the end of the day. It's interesting to philosophize about it. It's interesting to think, what if that is the case? We don't need to know, because even if it isn't the case, or it is the case, it doesn't matter. If it is the case, then great, I'll wake up in another body after this life. I won't remember this one, but that's okay. You know, I'll just wake up as someone else. Cool. If it isn't the case, right, okay, death is just nothingness forever. Brilliant. Well, I'll handle that. That's all right. So it doesn't matter, because we're all going to go to the same kind of, well, I suppose, to get a bit more depressive, the same end, but I don't mean it in much of a depressive way, but we're all going to the same thing. So it doesn't matter what we formulate here now in terms of whether it definitely is this or whether it definitely is this. It doesn't matter. It just, whatever is, and that's that. And just be happy that we're here now and we're doing this now. And if you do get another life, but you don't remember it, and it's just some other random person going off, then brilliant. But of course, also in this example, your consciousness is the same in that other person. So you will still experience that other life as the same consciousness, the same general, because we all have a general awareness of consciousness of what we're, so the consciousness that you feel is very similar, or pretty much the same, as we're all aware, or as we perceive, or we believe. It is very similar to one another. We have this conscious awareness, essentially, that's very, very similar. And that I've termed in a video, actually, the generality, well, not the generality of thought, but you could say the generality of consciousness. There's been other names for it as well in the past by other philosophers, but I've only just recently learned of, actually, and I was very interested to learn of it, because it made me realize, oh, right, so there's other stuff to it. You know, there's other people who knew this, which is cool. But yeah, so you have that generality. So the basic principle of the consciousness would be the same. So you would actually experience that life again, but you wouldn't be you. You wouldn't be, I wouldn't be Adam. I would be just someone else. And that someone else might be completely different from me. That someone else could be a bank robber who's, you know, committed murder 1,000 times or something. You don't know, do you? And then this is where the idea of karma comes in as well, with Hinduism and Buddhism, because let's say you have murdered loads of people in this life, the next life you might pay for it in karma. And in the Hindu idea, you may actually fall down and go into an animal, or, well, actually, no, even in the Buddhist idea of the Brahmaclara or something, I always forget, wheel of becoming anyway. I forget the Sanskrit name for it, but it's the Brahmacandra or something like that anyway. So even in the Buddhist idea, you'd go down to the animal realm, and then you go down to the Naraka realm, which is the hell realm. And so if you murder a load of people, then next life you're into that. And again, you can see how that would potentially make sense in some, you know, even if we were to apply it to science, we could, or make these to a unity, we could see how it possibly could fit in. I mean, yeah, okay, it's a very, very rudimentary way of explaining how it could fit in what I've just done, essentially, but you know, you could see a connection, how this would kind of form out. If you could just know what's in that unknown, you could really see how this lines up. And then obviously, if you did things good in this life, you'd get higher up rank into the Deva realm, which is the gods. And then let's say you might go down to the hungry ghosts, or you might go over what are they called? oh, I always forget the Sanskrit name for them. But anyway, the hungry ghosts, I like calling them the hungry ghosts anyway. So the hungry ghost realm, which are the beings with very, very small mouths, but very, very large stomachs. And so the stomachs, the mouths, you can't fit enough in your mouth to feed your stomach. So again, it's like more of a hell realm. So yeah, it's interesting. And then obviously in Hinduism, you go down the spectrum to the rats or the cows or what. Well, I don't know, actually cows might be above, I'm not sure, because cows are a sacred animal, aren't they? But you go down to the animals and stuff, and then you might go back up to the humans, and then obviously from the humans you'd maybe be a yogi or something, and then you would attain enlightenment or moksha or whatever you want to call it, and then you would be free of samsara or sangsara, which is the wheel of birth and death, of keeping going round, and then every time you get a new life, actually after your life of being a yogi, of attaining realization, you might just not manifest again in the physical realm and just be in that like kind of nothingness, which is also actually equivalent to bliss. Nothingness is equivalent to bliss, because when you have really in the Hindu idea, it's not that you go into nothingness, but you would actually ascend to just pure bliss, essentially, which is at one with Brahman. But let's say in a more scientific idea of just nothingness after death, nothingness can actually be equivalent to bliss, because if you think about what nothingness is just no experience. There's no problems. There's no one to experience any pleasures or pains or anything. It's just nothing. When you go to sleep, it's nice. It's nice when you go to sleep. You're just there. You're just nothing. You're just nothing. And so that's where nothingness can be equated to bliss, because there's just nothing to experience. It's just pure, just nothing. It's brilliant. There's no need to worry about things. There's no need to anything. It's just nothing. It is literally nothing. And that nothingness takes away. It's often been said, Socrates, it's been interpreted, Socrates' last words has been interpreted as death is the ultimate cure. When he was dying, of course, I think he got poisoned, Socrates, or someone, I think, was it Socrates who got poisoned? Maybe it was. But his dying words were, death is the ultimate cure. And that's where we can see this idea of this nothingness is bliss. This shutting down of the system is just bliss. And so the yogi might obviously go into this kind of blissful state and just stay there at one with Brahman, which is the ultimate reality in Hinduism. And Brahman is composed of mainly the Trimurti, which are Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma, which is Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the preserver, and Shiva is the destroyer. But also you have the Tridevi as well, which are the female kind of opposites of the male gods. But in Hinduism, you have all this kind of pantheon of gods, but they are all different aspects of the same one ultimate reality, which is Brahman. So you've got all these different kind of gods, but actually they're just a part of this one ultimate reality, which I say is Brahman. So, or that yogi might come back in Buddhist terms. We have to use Buddhist terms here because there's not really. Oh yeah, I suppose there is a Jivan Mukta or a Jivan Muksha, Jivan Mukta, I think it is, which is basically a Hindu sage, a yogi, who potentially has come back from that kind of bliss into the world and is portraying the role of a bodhisattva in Buddhism, which is someone who is enlightened and displays just even in their everyday life, in whatever they're doing, in however they're being, whatever time period they're in, helps free other beings from the round of birth and death. And when the other beings are out of them, they become higher in that kind of system, and then obviously they attain enlightenment, and then they can come back as other beings to help more people free from the cycle. But the funny thing is, within Hinduism, we're in what's known as the divine play, which is all of the people on the planet are all playing these personalities, which behind which is Brahman, the ultimate reality. So it's funny because Brahman is playing all of these pains and all of this suffering of all these people in the world who are really, really suffering. But it's also Brahman in the form of the yogi who's trying to actually get himself or itself out of the pain. So it's really funny that how Brahman creates he or she or whatever. Well, actually, he and she, because it's male and female. But they actually get. It's kind of like this weird playing where it's pulling itself out of it, but then going back into it as well. It's weird. It's weird. It's just one big cyclic finger in a way, and everyone can never be pulled out of the divine play. I've heard that. I think Alan Watts talked about that or something. Or it was I think Alan Watts talked about it in when he was touching upon Bodhidharma in that as Buddhism, in which that Bodhidharma said, he would make it his mission to free everyone from samsara, and then obviously everyone would have the bliss of enlightenment, but even though he knew that it would be impossible to free all these beings, because you've got more beings coming up, you've got people being born all the time, and then to be able to free all those people, and then more people being born, etc., you can't free everyone from it, and so you're always stuck in that. It's basically a job that will never get done. It's almost like having an infinite amount of letters or piece of paper to put inside letters, inside envelopes. So you have to fold up all these letters, put them in envelopes, but you've got an infinite stack that side, and you've got an infinite pile of envelopes, and you're just constantly putting them in and then going but that was what a lot of these yogis or whatever, or these bodhisattvas said, right, we're going to do this, and therefore in that idea, in that way of thinking, in that Buddhist idea, we come to a kind of quite a nice conclusion, really, in people in being able to give people pleasure, in life, and give and relieve people of some of the pain of just everyday life, really. But anyway, that concludes the lecture on Hinduism and Buddhism, I suppose. I tell you all that from just one question. I think that is a record breaker. I really do. Adds one thing university will do is teach you to focus. And yes, it will do. Yeah, definitely. You have a great mind, but do tend to wander quite a bit in your thoughts, which is not a bad thing. Yeah, I do. The wandering helps and hinders me. So it's good because of what I do. I wander a lot, and then that gives me new philosophical ideas and gives me new perspectives on things. But sometimes it can just go too far the other way, and I can become less focused, and I'm just out there and just like, whoa, you've seen it on this so many times where I ramble, and I'm almost, I don't even know what I've said. I don't know what conclusion I've tried to draw. So I've almost gone far too much. I've just gone far too broad and all like crazy, really, with it, and not actually got to a specific conclusion. That's one thing that is about me that is just, I don't know. I think that university will possibly help with the structuredness of it. I think that writing, if I were to write a book, I would be a lot more structured. When I talk, I tend to be, like, whoa, crazy. Let's talk about, all these different broad things. But when you've got a book and you're actually writing down, you're being quite conscientious with what you're writing down and where you're getting to certain conclusions, that will help me. So I think the writing element of it will really, really help me kind of focus a bit more. So, Victoria said I went in 1995. I was one of the oldest in my class. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll be pretty old, actually, in my class, unless there's some mature students there who are maybe 30, 35, 40, 50, I don't know, whatever. I saw the DT Suzuki manual or a Kawasaki one. I can't remember. Probably a Kawasaki one. I don't think professors in the US are as invested as in education as they are according to ads. I don't think professors in the US... I don't know about in the US. I don't know about in this country, really, but I'm just assuming that I don't know if that's in reference to my education ramble a while ago, but Yeah, I think there's other alternatives to be able to do the education system, basically. But I don't know about US. I've not been to the US or anything, so I wouldn't know how it even works there. Really, I wouldn't begin to imagine. There are 9 billion folks on Earth. The virus has only killed 1,000. Yeah, but I mean it's infected like 80,000 or something. But still, I mean I suppose it's not. Oh, what is that? Oh, it's bloody glitching again. Oh, there we go. Every time I say it's glitching, it stops glitching on me. How weird. Yeah. Yeah, 1,000. So yeah, I mean, even 80,000 though, it's not that. It's not crazy, is it, compared to like 9 billion people. Ads, just because you're older doesn't mean you're ready to stop living. No, it definitely doesn't mean you're ready to stop living. But I mean in terms of comparison, let's say I was 80 and there was, a 5-year-old. I'd be like, let the bloody 5-year-old live. Just let the 5-year-old. I mean, maybe now I would put up a bit more resistance because I'm young and I feel like I've not done living at all yet. But if I was 80, I might not have been done living. I might not have been. But I'd be like, come on, that 5-year-old, they've not even experienced anything. I'd be like, you don't know. To be honest, I say that. I don't know what I'd be like. I might be a selfish guy who'd be like, no, I want to live and all the rest of it. But I would assume that by 80 and with all that knowledge and with all that stuff that I've done, I'd have the courage to say, look, kill me, don't kill them, But you don't know. I mean, I've just said that it would, but that I would, sacrifice myself. But I don't know. I just hope I would. That's what I'm saying. You don't know until you're in the situation, really, do you? So you can't really say. Right, and let me have a look quickly down the chat and then we'll get going. We've got to get going soon. It's 1 hour and 32. Nick is made in grey. What do you want to make made in grey? I've seen a few. What's up? Tony Bernard. Andrew. Damien. Oh, yeah. What's Damien? Is that DB Resells, Damien? Oh, yeah, it is DB Resells. I thought. I got that right. Ads, new video series, hot university philosophy babes I'm currently dating. Oh, that would be a funny one. That would be pretty funny. I don't know. I mean, it's been something that's on my mind, actually. Like, would it be good for me to date another philosopher? Because I've always thought for the last 2 years, it'd be brilliant to date someone who was interested in the stuff I was interested in. But I'm not so sure now. I'm really not, because I'm pretty full on. And I think I could do with someone who's maybe studying, in terms of a relationship, who's maybe studying drama or dance or art or do they do food tech or I'm sure they do cooking at university, right? As a catering. You must do catering at university, surely. I don't know, it must be a degree. There's a degree for everything now. Maybe, catering or something, something that is almost direct opposite to me, but isn't very it is intellectual, but it's because that sounds terrible, me saying that cooking isn't intellectual. It's very intellectual, and there's a lot of science to cooking, but it's intellectual in a different way. That's what I mean. And because philosophy is very, very analytical, very full on, very, keep going in, keep looking in, and it's also very deep as well. So, what does this mean in terms of existence? Well, look at this. My hair looks like I'm a bloody mad scientist when I pushed it up, man. Anyway, it's really deep, but, something like cooking or drama or dance. I mean, also, there's always these creative and deep elements to any subject, really, or a lot of subjects, but that is a more soothing kind of, cooking can be quite, what's the word? I nearly burped then. I kind of burped, but it didn't come up fully. Anyway, you don't want to know about that, do you? So yeah, it can be quite intense cooking, but at the same time, it would be soothing for me as an onlooker to be dating someone doing that, because if there was two philosophers, or even a philosopher and a psychologist or something like that, it would get crazy. It really would. I mean, we'd annoy each other, I think. So, I don't know. It might work in the short term, but over 10 years or so, I think it would, 5 or 10 years, it would really start to take its toll. But as a short term thing, just a little testing relationship thing, maybe the last 6 months or so, yeah, I'm sure it'd be brilliant. I'm sure it'd be great. There's no reason why I couldn't do that. But yeah, it's just as a long term thing, I wouldn't think it would work. But you never know. You never know. Sure, there's people who make it work as philosophers and psychologists living, married or whatever. I always think with psychologists though, because you know so much about yourself. In a relationship, you're constantly analysing what the other person does. So, did you have any dreams the other night? Oh, you had a dream about a pen, or you had a dream about what do we call them? A needle. That's it. Oh, you had a dream about a needle. Well, that's a bit of a funny one. But anyway, because I know what a needle would potentially represent in a dream or could have a symbolic image of. So, I mean, it's not hard to work out actually what one of the interpretations of that could be. But yeah, then you're thinking, oh, right, okay, so now I can interpret your dreams and I know you well enough to know what's going on in your personal life. So now I can understand what it is that you need. And now I'm like, oh, yeah, but God, how do I approach this? Because if it's something weird that you need or something a bit out there that you need, and I'm your husband, it's like, I can't, how am I meant to approach that? How am I meant to talk to you about that? And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I wouldn't know. Dating another psychologist would probably not work. I mean, you'd always be engaged, or I think you would. I mean, it depends on what your level of ego inflation with how good you think you are as a psychologist is, or your hubris or whatever. Your hubris, maybe, actually. But you'd be constantly thinking, how much more self-aware am I than you? And can I get one up on you? And when you just constantly engage in psychological warfare of, and then you constantly picking at each other saying, I think there's something weird with your psychology. I think it's like, you constantly maybe not. Maybe if you're psychologist and you've got very, very good grounding with people and you've been in like clinical practice for years, yeah, you'd probably be quite mellow. You'd probably be quite, you'd actually probably be a very nice partner. But I think as a young psychologist who's like really bullish and thinks you know it all and stuff, I think we'd be quite picking each other apart. So, if ever you get into a relationship with a psychologist or a psychiatrist, you get into a relationship with them when they're 40 or 45 years old and they've been in practice for 20 years because they're a lot more mellow then and they've defeated any level of ego inflation with the idea of how good they are as a psychologist. And that's probably the main thing a psychologist has to get over, their own ego inflation of how good they think they are as a psychologist. And then that feeling of, oh, well, yes, I can interpret all these dreams and I can do all this. And I've looked into my own mind and I know all the areas of my own psyche. And therefore, I know what's good for you. I know what's right for you. But if you've been in practice, you see, if that's the very young, bullish psychologist or psychiatrist. But if you've been in practice, that all goes because you're fussed into it. You're fussed into your work, and you've got to write down all your reports and all your stuff, and you've got to be very you've got to have very good human skills and stuff in terms of when you're actually dealing with the clients and things like that. And you're going to come across a lot of clients who are really, really well, I don't want to use the word broken, but I can't think of another word. Just they're in let's say a darker place in their life. Let's say that. I don't like to use the word broken because I don't believe anyone's broken anyway. I think that's a very terrible concept to use in psychology or anything. But as I say, I just couldn't think of another word at that time. But they're in a dark place. And so that gives you more humility. You exercise that more humility, and then you're good. Your own level of ego inflation comes down a bit more. But yeah, I always think maybe not there. But I mean, even me analysing the fact that I shouldn't be with a psychologist is in fact in the realm of my own ego inflation, because I'm actually trying to get more self-aware than they are in the fact of even predetermining how I would be like in a relationship with a psychologist. My God, I didn't realise that. That's incredible. Bloody hell. Yeah, I need to work on my ego inflation, clearly. But anyway, I already knew that. I already knew I needed to work on my ego inflation. Yeah, I'm terribly ego inflated. Andrew, since Ad isn't paying attention, did I miss any carnage in Australia this morning? Oh, is it still going on in Australia, the fires and that? Oh no, I think he was live, was he, or something? I'm not sure. I tried to find that live chat actually that someone posted on Instagram. I couldn't find that. This chat is so up my street. So pleased we're not chatting about reselling, loving it. I thought we've not been chatting about reselling for about 10 weeks. Honestly, we hardly chat about reselling. I don't know why people still join in the chat. I honestly don't, because I never talk about reselling anymore. And I would have thought everyone just goes away and just leaves me. Adds that I'm not very intelligent. I would say I've just got a high levels of openness. Let's say that I'm intelligent in the way of openness. But if you gave me a car, right, this is the thing. If you gave me a car and said, put all this back together in terms of all the mechanics of it, wouldn't have a clue. So, it's just people are intelligent in different ways. I like the saying from Einstein where he said, well, what was it about that test? If you measure the ability of a fish to climb a tree or something, it's something, I don't know. Let me type it in. I want to actually get that. If you measure the ability of a fish to climb a tree. Here we go. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. So it's very true, there's people out there who are absolutely brilliant at car maintenance and stuff. They're geniuses at it. They're absolutely brilliant. But I don't have a clue of that. I would say my kind of forte lies in psychology and philosophy, or philosophy of the mind, and also religion as well, and maybe possibly mythology. But that's about it. I would say like those three I'm good, I'm okay at, but not in terms of just a conceptual level of intelligence that I can get, so how much I can read on them and how much I know in words, but I mean how much I feel them, how much I'm in tune with them in my very inner being. I'm in tune with philosophy. I'm in tune with mythology. I'm in tune with psychology from my inner being, not necessarily that I know incredible amounts about psychology or philosophy or anything, but maybe one day I will. And so someone else might be genius in something. I mean, I've never been very good at art in terms of actually drawing and painting. Another person's a genius in art. This is why we go back to the education thing. We need the education system good, because if we have have an education system that is well organized, we get all those people who are coming through into the right places, and then they all believe that they're a genius. Again, it's debatable whether we want everyone believing they're a genius, because then that just breeds a society full of self-absorbed narcissists in a way. But if we can all believe that we're a genius, but know that everyone else is a genius too, and respect that, then that's the utopian society. If we all can fit within our own fields and all be comfortable in the fact that we know we're geniuses in our respective fields, but that we're only we're all geniuses. I'm not any more of a genius than someone else in someone else's field. It's just that it's a different sort of genius. Then we're there. But we don't want to necessarily breed people who are just thinking, I'm a genius, and they don't take into consideration the fact, and it is a fact, that there are all geniuses out there in different fields. There's many people who bloody geniuses at reselling, or even a broader topic than that, business in general. And many people in this chat who I consider incredibly well versed in business and selling and all that sort of stuff. And so that's their kind of thing. And it goes down to a very micro level of all these different micro subjects in terms of that, little parts of subjects that people really master and really get in tune with, and that's their genius. That's who they are. Like, for example, someone who has mastered dino birds, let's say, right? So there's a category of dinosaurs called dino birds, and obviously they've mastered that study within the branch of paleontology. Now that's one niche in paleontology, but they've mastered it. They've put 50 years into it, and they absolutely love it. They've always loved it since we were a kid. When we were 10 years old or 8 years old, the mum gave them a book on these dino birds or whatever. They open it up and they're looking at all these feathers that are coming off it, and they're looking at how these little claws on the birds, when they first evolved 151.5 million years ago with Archaeopteryx, in German it means original bird. They looked at these little claws and they saw that these were hollow bones, and that helped them obviously be able to glide and fly, and that obviously meant that the dino birds took flight. And so they then really look into this. They really look into all these different traits of these other different dino birds, and things like Microraptor and stuff like that, and also different types of venom that some of these animals could use. And you're really getting into it, and you're really looking at these fossils, and over time, obviously, you get to becoming 18, you go off to uni for it, and you're really loving it, and then you get into it, and then you're like 25, you get into a job, you get a research grant from someone, you go off to some sort of valley where there's loads of fossils, and you find this new fossil. You found a new fossil that no one else has ever found in the world. You go to a laboratory, you really look into it, you analyze it, and then a year later or so, after there's been tests and stuff done on it and possibly a bit of paperwork done on it, you get to name it or whatever it may be. I don't know how long it takes to name it. I'm just assuming the timescale, but you get to name it, and then you name it after yourself or someone else or whatever. And it's such a proud day for you because you've done it. You've become the master in that field. You are the person who is upholding the human race in that one field. And if we can all understand that every single one of us, every 8 billion or whatever, 7 billion or whoever said it in the chat, it's like 8 billion, I think. Every one of us is upholding and advancing the human race in our own daily way, in our own kind of micro subject. Then we've won, because we say that not in a way of self-absorption, but actually in a way of respect for our own craft and for everyone else's craft, as a real interest and passion within what we're doing, and also looking across the way at what other people are doing and really valuing and having a lot of passion for the passion that they're getting out of their subject. And so if we can get to that, and a good solid education system, which I don't necessarily completely believe that we've got now, although given its flaws, it's still a good system, it's still a fair system. But if we can get a good, really strong system in place there on that base level, and we can also teach people that this is the end goal, this is where we want to get to. We have this realization in place, we have this goal in place, and we want you to feel like this. We want you to be creative and passionate in the thing that in your micro subject, that you are going to become a genius in. You pick it, you choose it, you go down that route, and you respect everyone else who is also doing this, who's going down their journeys or their pathways, and then we can get there. And then that's it. There's no more progress to be made, essentially, because we're all happy. And shouldn't that be the basis for a society? Ultimate happiness, not necessarily progressing technologically, scientifically, not any of those things, but actually having ultimate happiness, in a way, having happiness and bliss for what we are doing. We are actually gaining the happiness from what we are doing. If you look at a lot of scientists or philosophers who are really at the top of their game, and they've been in that for years and years and years. I mean, a great example of this is Brian Cox. That man absolutely loves physics. He absolutely loves the universe. And when he explains it in his what do we call it? TV programs. I don't know why I forgot that name. In his TV programs, he explains his subject. He explains physics. He explains the universe in such poetic terms. He explains it with such beauty, such radiance, such passion, that yes, he may be making advances in his field, But it's not really that is like this true amazing product. It's actually, if you really think about it, his happiness for the field and his way of actually describing it, because it's his poetic way of describing it that inspires someone else, and then that person who's a little kid watching him on TV goes away and leads their pursuit of happiness to the thing that they really want to do. And so it's only in his passion, happiness, and poetic description of what he is doing that then can really spark some happiness in the next generation. It's not necessarily the advancements. The advancements are all good. It's great. Yeah, we can say, we're nearly getting towards an understanding of proton decay, or some idea of in cosmology of the fact that the universe is going to enter some sort of big freeze at the end of days, and things are just going to pitter out into nothingness. Or maybe with Penrose, we could say the idea of the big crunch, where things are going to come in to a singularity, and then possibly explode back out into another universe like that. It's brilliant that we can make those advances, that we can theorize or hypothesize in that way, and possibly gain more of an understanding. But those are all words at the end of the day. Even if we actually think about that and we can prove that, well, what does it say to us? Okay, we know that now. Okay, well, we're on to the next thing. So the progress necessarily isn't the thing. It's actually getting people to be where they need to be in their fields. And then obviously because that base happiness is there, we can then progress anyway. The progress is a natural product of the happiness, not the happiness as a product of the progress. That's the thing that we don't think, you see. We think that happiness comes as a product of progress. It's actually that progress comes as a product of happiness. It's not the other way around. If someone's happy, they will make progress. If someone's making progress, they may be happy, but it's that they need to have that base element of happiness there to make real progress, because there's no point in being incredibly uninterested or sad about your profession. You might make little bits of progress, but you won't ever, and you might get little bits of satisfaction after that progress, but you won't make real leaps and bounds because you're just not as interested. You're not as there. You're not as all 100% there with it. You're not really passionate about it. And so you need to have that essentially happiness as a base to then flourish. It's like a flower. A flower grows like that, and then you could say that this is essentially the happiness of it swirling up to the sun. So it's going like that and growing up to the sun and going up like that. And then from this happiness of it growing up like that and growing up all the way to the sun in obviously angle into the sun like that or something, it then sprouts this flower, and that flower is the progress. That's the thing that comes out of this slow little work up, this happiness here that slowly goes up, and then boom, you get the progress there in the actual flower bud. But it's not necessarily that the progress makes the happiness. It's actually the happiness that makes the progress. And I think that so many people actually think it's the other way around. And if you think it's the other way around, you're going to be constantly striving after something, and then you'll get a little bit of progress, but you won't. It'll be a very quick form of happiness. It won't be a long-lasting sense of happiness. You make a discovery, you think, oh yeah, that's brilliant, that's great discovery, but then you think, but I've got all this to do in the future, I've got all this that I need to still do. You're going to be thinking like that. Whereas if you always have a base of, oh well, I love what I'm doing, then you make a discovery, and then your discovery might even be even more illuminating because you've been happy in where you are and what you're doing right from the beginning. But yeah, anyway, I'll leave it at that. I am rambling tonight. Anyway, I better go because we're 2 hours now. It's crazy. Are you double jointed? No, I have spastic hemiplegic cerebral palsy on my left side, so you can see there. Wee, look at that. It's all weird. Look at that. Look at that. Have you seen that? Look at that under there. Oh, it's funny. Anyway, I'll have to go now. I really, I don't know what episode of Scooby-Doo. Yeah. So thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one, which will be next week. And yeah, because I best go now because it's been 2 hours, and I'll just ramble even more. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you very soon. Also, I apologize I didn't get to many questions in the chat. I don't know whether people, yeah, I don't know whether people have actually asked a lot of questions, but anyway, yeah, I will see you in the next one. I possibly will go through the chat actually in a minute and then just pull out a few questions, and then I can do them next week, or possibly do them in a separate pre-recorded video if anyone's got any questions. If I do see any, I don't know, there might not be any questions up the chat. But if I do them now, I'm going to be staying on for 2.5 hours or something. So I'll leave that for now. So see you very soon, guys. And thanks for joining. Do